Hey folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. That's Adrian.
And that's Glenn.
And today we return to David Bowie, who we admire as an artist, but we have lots and lots of material we haven't looked at yet. And Adrian, I don't know that you've heard much of anything from Bowie, really, except for what might have been on the radio. Right? Am I right?
Not much. Just a couple albums, I think. You know, I got a Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah.
I got the
That's a great
Major Tom.
Good. Oh, yeah.
Space Oddity. That's what it's called.
Yeah. Well, actually, in England, it was also known as David Bowie. It was the second one by that name. So it's right. Either answer is correct. Yeah, sorry. Maybe I was shortchanging you there. You actually do have some history with David Bowie. And, of course, we did The Man Who Sold the World, a complete album review at some point a few years ago now. If you want to see something old on this channel, go ahead and take a look at that. should be entertaining. But today we're going to look at a song called I'm Afraid of Americans. This is a song that was also featured in the movie Showgirls from 1995, but it appears on his album Earthlings, which came out in 1996. It was his 21st album. This was a point where he was kind of struggling a little bit. Bowie in the 90s and the early 2000s is kind of a different thing than, like, he ran into some problems in the late 80s. After Let's Dance, he had, I would even say, a string of not very good records or not well regarded, but he did get his footing back, you know, and he worked hard at it too. I mean, he started another band, Tin Machine, to help himself kind of recapture some of the stuff that he wanted to recapture to become the artist he wanted to be again. So this was on the way to that. There are some great albums that came after it. This particular album, I've never heard anything off of, so I look forward to checking this song out. So, Adrian?
As far as I can remember, I haven't heard this.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and play it, and then we'll talk about it after.
All right.
One of our 90s songs, but I'm afraid of Americans. John's in America, low-tech's at the wheel. No one needs anyone that don't even just pretend. John is in America. I'm afraid of America. I'm afraid of the world. Johnny wants to suck on the coke. Johnny needs a woman. Johnny wants to think of a joke. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. Johnny's in America. Johnny looks up at the stars. Johnny combs his hair. Johnny wants pussy and cars. is in America. God is in America. I'm afraid of America. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of America. I'm afraid of the words. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. God is in America. 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 I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the words. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans.
All right, thoughts, Adrian?
All right, well, it starts with a nice boogieing techno type beat. Then in the chorus, it gets to a more rock and roll type riff.
Well, yeah, the bass and the snare are actually about the same throughout the song. It's the other stuff around it that change. It occurs to me, it does sound like something that came from a 70s artist that did a lot of rock music, which David Bowie did. You know, it feels like some of those sensibilities are in here. I could almost hear one of those classic bands from the early 70s playing a song like this. I mean, maybe not the techno feel, you know, but some other feel. And I mean, the chorus almost could have been exactly the same. I thought it rocked. I thought it was a pretty strong chorus.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Okay, so the lyrics, just so we have an idea. Johnny's in America, no tax at the wheel. No one needs anyone. They don't even pretend. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. Johnny wants a brain. Johnny wants to suck on a Coke. They're being very careful with those lyrics there. Johnny wants a woman. Johnny wants to think of a joke. So yeah, you know, it's just kind of a vibe, basically. And God is an American is in there later on, too. And I can, you know, without getting too deep into the subject matter that he's chosen here, I'll just say that I enjoy what he's done here with it. And it looks like he also wrote it with Brian Eno as I look at the credits at the bottom of the lyrics. So Brian Peter George Eno and David Robert Jones, a.k.a. Bowie. So,
yeah,
okay.
It just seemed to be a song about, say, a European coming to America and kind of experiencing the country, warts and all.
Yeah, really. Yeah, Bowie always has great bands behind him, and he was a heck of an artist. He really was. I mean, in terms of a person that would put an album together, you know, construct a good album, he could really do it. Even late in life, he was able to do it. There are some great albums. The last two are really good. Black Star, which came out just before he passed away and was basically a goodbye letter. The Next Day, which was 3 years before that. That's the one with the white square over what used to be the Heroes album cover. You know, it says The Next Day. Got an album called Heathen, which I think is about 2001, 2, something like that. Love it. Love that album. And so he did some good work later on. You know,
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, maybe we'll pull something on here, just to get a sense of the latter day David Bowie. This is fairly latter day, though. I mean, this is one of his last tours, it looks like. This says 2002 in Paris. And I believe that he completely finished performing in 2004. He actually ended up having a heart attack on stage and had to end the tour right then and there. But anyway, we're lucky to have had him as long as we did, and great to have all this concert footage that we can look at. Seems like there's a few shows around from his later in his touring years. Yeah, any particular grade you give this, Adrian? Well, I don't know.
Grade I would give this song, I'd give it a A- or A or something like that. Well, the nice thing, they alternate this techno thing with the rock and roll chorus.
Yeah.
They alternate between the two, and that's what keeps it fresh.
Yeah, that's a good tactic for sure.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, folks, why don't you let us know what you thought of this? And if you ever saw David Bowie, especially if you saw him in those later years, would love to hear about that. If you had a favorite song, if you have suggestions for us, anything like that, leave all that info below. All right. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoyed our presentation, please subscribe. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right. Take care, folks.
See y'all later.